Okay guys, today's lecture is going to be on making proteins. Proteins are essential to all of us. We're all made up of proteins. Traits such as eye color are determined by proteins that are built according to instructions encoded in the DNA. So if we didn't have our DNA, we would not have blue eyes, we would not have green eyes. Okay? Our DNA determines that. DNA is the instruction book for every protein in your body, but they are not built directly from DNA. Remember, DNA does not leave the nucleus, so it has to use RNA. RNA is another nucleic acid. It differs from DNA in 3 ways. We've already talked about this, but let's review. Single strand instead of a double strand. It has a 5-carbon sugar, which is ribose instead of deoxyribose. And there's no thymine bases in RNA. Instead, it's replaced by uracil. So uracil in RNA will match up with adenine instead of thymine. The overall process takes place in 2 different locations. The first process will take place in the nucleus. The DNA will be copied into mRNA, and the mRNA will then leave the nucleus, and then it will proceed out into the cytoplasm where the second part, or the second stage, will take place. Transcription is the first process, and as you can see, it has a C, and C comes before L, so remember it's stage 1. The process of building RNA by using one strand of DNA as a template. So the DNA will unzip, and one half of the DNA will be the template. This transfers the nucleotide sequence from the double-stranded DNA to the single-stranded RNA. In transcription, there are 4 steps that we're going to talk about. RNA polymerase binds to DNA at the promoter. It just means that that's where it starts copying. DNA is unzipped. Complementary DNA nucleotides are added. The RNA polymerase stops when it reaches a termination sequence, and you will see these when we are doing our cow genetics. The resulting RNA is called a messenger RNA, or mRNA. As you can see here, the messenger in RNA inserts itself in between. So we have the unzipped DNA, and it's only going to copy one side. So and that messenger RNA is actually a complementary strand to the DNA that we're going to code for the protein. The genetics code is something we're going to take a look at. The mRNA carries the instructions for building the proteins out of the nucleus to the ribosome. So the genetic code is contained on the DNA, but it's temporarily copied onto the mRNA so it can leave the nucleus out to the cytoplasm where it needs to go to make the protein. Now, one of the things we need to realize is what a codon is. A codon is three sets of nucleotides that make up the mRNA sequences. You can have many of these, okay? The mRNA that encodes an amino acid or signifies a start signal or a stop signal is very specific. You need a start signal to signal when the protein is going to begin, and you saw those in the DNA sequence sentences that we did worksheet, okay? Or a stop signal, which tells us where the protein ends, and then the mRNA will no longer continue copying the DNA. Each codon codes for one amino acid. So there's 3 nucleotides to make up one codon. The genetic code is universal to all organisms with very few exceptions. Let's take a look here. This is actually a protein chart that you guys will be using for your cow genetics. Now this is for mRNA, so you're going to have to look at what the code is for the mRNA in order for the protein to show up. If you take a look here, UAA and UAG are stop sequences, so those are the ones that will tell the mRNA that we're not making any more towards the protein. There are also the start sequences, okay, and they tell the mRNA where they're going to start. RNA translation then occurs out in the cytoplasm, okay, and it involves the ribosomes. Translation is the process of using the codons that were in the mRNA to add amino acids to a developing protein. This occurs on a ribosome out in the cytoplasm. tRNA, which is transfer RNA, is a folded strand of RNA that temporarily carries the single amino acid. This takes place in the ribosome. The only thing we really need to know about tRNA is it contains the amino acid, and it will match up with the mRNA to start the protein synthesis.